What is up, everyone? It's the guy here, and welcome back to another episode of Themindhere. This is my bi-weekly podcast where I provide updates about my YouTube channel, discuss what I do behind the scenes, and talk about other things that come to mind. It also serves as a way to keep myself accountable and externally motivated to get my work done. If you're interested in how I make my music and videos, feel free to take a look at previous episodes. Welcome to all of you who are here for the first time. If you like my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. All right, let's start off with some channel updates. The first update I'm going to talk about is a little change in plans in how I'm approaching the new song I'm working on. In the previous episode, I mentioned that I was working on a song called Jasmine Flower. It's a traditional Chinese song, and I'm putting my own twist onto it as another song that I want to that I've always wanted to make, but also as a practice for my Vocaloid tuning skills. And as such, I've decided to change the type of song, the genre, to a trance song. I don't believe I mentioned, I'm not sure if I mentioned what sort of style I wanted in the previous episodes, but I originally had the idea of combining traditional Chinese instruments with some synths and other more modern instruments, but there were too many unknowns in the equation, and since my main goal was really to practice Vocaloid tuning skills with the Synthesizer 5, I decided to scrap that and go with something that's a little more what I'm more familiar with. That way I can focus on what I'm really trying to do here. So that's the change in that, in the song, in the path I'm going. But thankfully, with that change, I was able to make a lot more progress. I've got the basic melodic structure, the basic composition down. I've started doing a little bit of mixing and getting the instruments all fine-tuned out before I start working on the vocal sections. So there's progress on that. Hopefully, I'm aiming for seeing if I can get the song out by the next episode. I do have exam week coming up as a college student. That gives me, on one hand, I do have to study, but on the other hand, it gives me sort of a dead week with some room to do things. I still have other commitments to do though, but I'm aiming to get that done within the next 2 weeks. Another update on the channel is in the realm of the Think. This is a video series that I talked about doing. I actually made one video of talking about the basic structure, but it's been a while since I've touched up on it, mostly because I wasn't too satisfied with what I had before, and I didn't really have any ideas. I was also focused more on the music side, so I didn't touch up on that. But now I've started to got some ideas floating around in my head with what I want from the Think. And one of those ideas, so some of the ideas I had involved the structure, since I've had all this time to think about the structure of the videos, as well as just watching other similar educational type videos and seeing how they present information. I've been able to sort of refine that and get a better sense of what I actually want. Not only that, but I actually want to use a proper animation software and just refine the whole video making and the whole process to make a better video. And I've had other ideas in general that are something that I can cover on Themindhere. So I've been able to do some research, do some general research with the topics that I want, and I should be able to, with my readings, with some of my studies even, but also just YouTube videos and other extensive research online, I think I'll be able to pull something together. I'm aiming for, by the end of October, putting out my first video. It should be like an update to the Think video structures, so that will probably be the first one that comes out. And then I'm aiming for something related to systems thinking, since that's what I've been looking into recently. So there's an update on my YouTube channel from that side. All right, now to some things that I've been thinking about within the past 2 weeks, or from the last episode to this episode. And one of these things is actually more of a reaction to current events and what I think about it. So, one of the things that happened within this week on what was it? I don't remember the exact date, but within this week, the Tesla Battery Investor Day happened. And if you know me, I am a nerd for SpaceX and Tesla with all these, I guess, engineering related, because I'm going to be an engineering major. So obviously that excites me, but also I'm just very interested in the endeavors of Elon Musk. And of course, this was an event that I had to watch. It was an update about the battery technology of Tesla. Now, one of the things that I thought about this was I was really excited with what happened in there. But the general public didn't seem to be that excited. And I was concerned about that because on one hand, that means, on one hand, I thought that people's expectations were a little too high or just not feasible for Battery Investor Day. And on the other hand, I feel like they either didn't get what was presented or misunderstood the purpose of that day. So it's quite easy to sort of get overhyped with an event and then get disappointed. That's something that's understandable. That happens. And you just sort of have to come to terms with reality and realize, okay, maybe my expectations were a bit too high. It's not feasible. And hopefully what you actually see in the event can sort of tell you what was actually going on. But the other points about not understanding what was going on and just not understanding what was going on, that point, I feel like a lot of people just don't get what was presented on that day. And the issue here is that people had an expectation of something that needed to happen now. And the thing is that with an event like this, it wasn't like a product reveal. Tesla does these investor day events to update their investors and sort of everyone else in the industry about what technologies they have, right? So it's not a product reveal per se. It's not like something, oh, you can get this, we've already been working on this. It's not like an iPhone reveal or something like that. This is just talking about the tech. So if you're just talking about tech, then you have to be a little speculative and you have to be talking about developing technologies. So if you come into this from the perspective of this is going to be a product reveal, then of course you're going to be disappointed because that's not the point of this event. Yet a lot of people seem to have taken that approach. And it's really easy to take it as expecting some tangible product because, well, as most people are consumers and they only see the part that's tangible, the cars that they make and the other products or services. But the whole point of this event was talking about the technologies, the processes behind making these. And why this alarmed me. Normally, well, the average person isn't into the engineering, all that, so you'd say that it's fine that people didn't understand that, right? However, I have an issue with that because there's a general trend that a good number of people just don't understand the process behind making things, right? When people are just consuming things, for example, YouTube videos, food, products like cars or something like that, they only see the end product, but they don't really see what went into it. And oftentimes the process of making it, although it might seem like something is super easy to do, is actually really hard. And there are some critical points where if you're not in the industry or if you're not the one that's creating, you wouldn't realize. And generally that's fine because if you're not specialized in something, then you wouldn't know about it, obviously. But the fact that people don't even recognize that if they're not in the industry, there's something they're missing. And then basing their expectations and just taking the approach that something should be easy, or should be something like, or should be simple to do, or should be done at this time frame, that gets me concerned, because if you're not able to take the perspective from the creator, from the people that are making, then it really sort of detracts from what they're making, right? If you take a look at art, right? If there's an art channel on YouTube, for example, and they come out with a masterpiece every like 2 months or something, you can bet that there are people that are critical and say 2 months, that's way too long. But if you don't understand what's going into it, then you can't appreciate the art. And yes, people who don't know what the art is, or don't know how to do it, won't truly understand what goes behind it, and that's fine. But if you don't understand, if you don't even consolidate the fact that maybe you don't know what's going on, and then you think you know, then apply it to them and come with that expectation, then the attitude of thinking you know what's going on when you really don't, that's what's really concerning me and damaging in this situation. So my takeaway from this, besides just the actual content, which you should go on YouTube and actually search it up. The point of this is not to talk about what happened. It's really my reaction to how other people reacted, and my concerns with the overall reaction, sort of a meta-analysis over what happened. So my advice would be to really just, if you don't know what's going on, then you really shouldn't be acting like you do, because that gets you into a lot of trouble when people who do know what's going on point you out, and then you get all defensive, and that spirals into escalation and verbal wars and all that. But it also just has a very damaging effect on society in general when everyone assumes that they know what's going on, that they're the expert in this, and that all the other experts just don't know what they're doing. That also decreases trust in society, and all of that combined, just the overall big picture is not something beneficial. So hopefully keep that in mind and just be a little more humble. Of course, I'm also trying to do what I say. I wouldn't be recommending this if I am not actively trying to do this. But of course, not everyone has some flaws, and of course, I fall vulnerable to I'm guilty of committing some of the problems that I myself have recommended other people to do. But nonetheless, if we all make an effort to it, we'll hopefully create a better society. All right, okay, so this week we have a question from Alfred Prose. Thank you so much. And his question asks me about the butterfly effect. So it asks, what do you think of the butterfly effect in psychology? Have you experienced something related to the butterfly effect, and how can you take advantage of it? All right, so that's a good question. So it's just talking about the butterfly effect. If I've experienced it, how do you take advantage of it? Right, so what I think of the butterfly effect, and just as a disclaimer, I am not a psychology major. I don't have, I barely have anything that would merit me as someone that you'd go to for psychology questions. So these are just my thoughts on it. I have taken a high school course in it, so take that with however much you trust me on this. But this is sort of my look on what I think it is. So the butterfly effect, I think that points to just the general concept of something that sort of builds on itself, right? So, for example, in math, that would be something like an exponential function, or divergence, for example. If you've taken calculus, then it's like the divergence as you go towards infinity or go towards some specific value. If it doesn't converge onto a single value on another axis, then it's diverging. And that's sort of what the butterfly effect is doing. As time progresses, it's going further and further away. It's also, you can think of it as a reinforcing feedback loop. This is what you can think of from systems thinking, where it's a feedback loop where whatever is happening affects the rate at which it is happening, right? So as you slowly start learning more things, you're able to better learn, which then helps you to learn faster. So the more you learn, the faster you can learn, and you can quickly see how that sort of builds on itself. So really, it's the concept of something building on itself and boosting itself forward. So that's the general concept of the butterfly effect. And I believe everyone has experienced it to some point. It's prevalent in a lot of things that we do, believe it or not. In, of course, our growth, right? When we started out as babies, we were not able to walk, and then we slowly made progress in being able to controlling our muscle movements. And every step of the way, it seems we get a lot better, and pretty soon you're surprised at how fast you've learned a lot of things, right? So it's the idea of building on top of each other. And of course, in a local section, during the moment, it feels very linear, like, oh, it's one thing after the other after the other. But over the long run, you'll be able to see that is actually building on itself. And a good way to sort of assess that is the idea that when you don't know, when you haven't discovered something, it seems hard. But once you've discovered it, it seems trivial, right? Once you know how to do a math problem, then it seems so easy to do. But of course, you had to have learned that first, and then everything else before that, right? If you learn how to do algebra, then of course all the addition, subtraction seems trivial, but you had to build on each other to get there. And so everything before that just seems like something that's, if you picture an exponential graph, then it's sort of that like flat line before you start curving upwards, right? And everything else beyond that, like the calculus and all the other things that you don't even know about, it just seems like a wall that you have to hit that you don't know how you would approach it. So the butterfly effect is in the way we learn, and a lot of things that we do too, how our actions compound on top of each other, right? Compounding is part of this butterfly effect where it builds on top of each other. So if you're able to get good sleep, then you increase your chances of thinking well, thinking better. And if you think better, then you make better decisions, which improve your health in other ways that can further improve your health, et cetera, right? So all of these are part of the butterfly effect, and how a lot of us experience it every day. We just don't realize, because in the moment, it doesn't seem like it. It seems very linear. And how do we take advantage of it? Well, how we take advantage would be to first recognize that the butterfly effect and these exponential processes are everywhere. And then once you realize that, you can start taking into account how, for example, learning is exponential. It builds on top of one another. So then the most important thing you can do in the moment is to just go step by step, making sure you understand and build your way up, because that consistent progress, although it might seem linear now, will exponentially increase your ability to learn. So just keeping that in mind in the moment, that whatever seems painful and seems very slow will all of a sudden speed up, and you will wonder what happened. And that is because of all of the work that you've put in previously. So I guess how you take advantage of it is to plan for it, recognize that it exists first, plan for it, and then in the moment when you're struggling, recognize that all of your work that you put in now will show out in the future in a dramatic way. So that's my advice to you on how to take advantage of the butterfly effect. All right, that's going to wrap up for this episode. If you would like to be part of this episode and want to contribute, you can leave a comment down below under this video on YouTube, this podcast video, and just leave a question. Ask me anything. This is a one question, ask me anything. And if there are multiple people that ask me questions, I will randomly pull and select that one to be answered in the next episode. All right, thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate you guys supporting me throughout this journey as I have learned and grown with this community. So I appreciate you guys, and I think that's going to wrap it up. Hopefully you guys are doing well, and I will see you in the next episode.